So this T-square has a big puzzle. The solution to it, regardless of the aspect, you still have to use the planets and the houses and the signs that they're in. So she's still going to have her Mars and Gemini in being independent, doing her own thing, being restless, not want to be fixed in, not want to be hemmed in. She's still going to want to have, she's going to have her sense of trust and social work. That's Sun in the 8th house, and this planet there's a need to do something meaningful in the world, to be socially meaningful. But if it's not meaningful, who's it going to be meaningful to? There's the puzzle. So this could be a really dedicated person. It could be someone really dedicated to a cause, or if she found a special cause or a spiritual path, she would be very dedicated, and this energy would become a really positive light, this aspect, this T-square. But in the world of relationships and business and getting what you want and pushing for it, and in our mundane world, this causes a lot of confusion and sorrow, a lot of unreliability, a lot of big schemes, a lot of people being unreliable to her, and her not being able to put up with other people. So it's confusion around relation, where she fits in, who she is, what she's doing. Of course, who gets into astrology that doesn't have some twist, something that's not messed up, that's there. So oh boy, we see it, you can see it, and then you're having to, how do I work with what I do anyways? This is part of the validity of why astrology is so useful. Yeah, so this is the one T-square. Oh, so she didn't get any examples from the moon Pluto from family, but in the 7th house of Saturn, there's difficulties or seriousness around relationships. They may come late in life. It's ruled by the moon, opposed by Pluto. So this family thing, mother and father have a strong influence on relationships. But the Saturn squares to Jupiter. Unfortunately, it doesn't hit the moon. It squares to Jupiter. That's not a bad aspect. That's a understanding what's there. But it's squared by Uranus, and Uranus squares to Saturn and squares to Jupiter. So this creates the unstable father, the unstable commitment, or commitments that break suddenly, and understandings that change. I believed in this. I thought this was going. I was understanding this, and it didn't live up to it. It wasn't there. Oh, geez, it didn't change, or it changed too fast. Just when I'm about to make a commitment to buy some property, to anchor in and move in together, get things anchored in. It's not the same thing. So she's going to make up the plans too fast with her Mercury and think of things. But she has these 2 squares to 1, who's reliable, the other when it comes down to commitments. It's hard to know who's real. Things will change a lot. This feeds her 9th house of morality and understanding. It feeds her 3rd house and her 7th house, relationships. So understanding relationships and understanding the trust that's shared between relationships. Is this strong? That's the strong 7th, 8th, 9th, strongly activated quadrant. I'm not going through everything in exact detail as we do like each category. I think you lose something when you don't stop it, slow it down, and do it. But we've done everything. We did this in the natal chart. We can't spend all the time on it today. So I'm just backing up and grouping, looking at the most obvious and trying to talk about it. The sun needing to do something of social significance, psychological significance, easily can advise other people or peg whether other people are good or bad, or she would know in a second if a relationship was messed up or not. But she wouldn't know so much for herself. Or if she did, she wouldn't know what to do about it, what to do. Oh my goodness, what I do. Now that I attracted the confusing guy, now I have to put up to him. What do I do? How do I get out of here? What's going to happen? Like, let's get out of here, says the moon in Aries. So, just practical. The Capricorn rising, Virgo, down towards practical, but she's very responsive to others. So she can get in social positions and social roles quite significantly, but finding the peaceful home and finding a place to be at peace, that's a more difficult challenge. She has Taurus on the ice. She's motivated to do well, to live well, to have nice things, to be comfortable. It's opposed by Uranus too, so there's a lot of changing that goes around it. So the psychology and the psychological interest of the Sun, Venus, and Mercury in this 8th house, the Uranus and Pluto in the 9th house, is the philosophy that develops from the social conscience, the philosophy, the morality, and leading up to Uranus on the midheaven. That's really, she can't work for us. She got to do her own work. She got to do her own thing, and that's really good for astrology. Even the Capricorn, Saturn rules astrology. not Uranus. She has both sides, Uranus in the middle, and I could point to astrology doing an unconventional independent career, but she has the practical side. She has the Saturn ascendant, so being able to watch the Saturn cycles and watch how they unfold, she would be very clearly tuned into. Okay, so that's the main factors in going into it. So you see the value of the astrology, how it would work, how she's going to be really good at it. Okay, we gotta look through the transits and we look through the progressions, but just quickly, when I look at chart, I'm always thinking the progressions right away first, and the Saturn. But her Saturn is in the 7th house, so she basically follows the 7-8 year cycles. Go from the 7th house, goes on. We'll come to that in a second. But her progressed Sun moves up through Virgo, 28 years, then goes through Libra, 30 years. Then as it goes, just at the end of Libra, it's building up to career, building up to status. She's got things to do in the world to prove where she can be. Okay, so one of her careers is certainly going to be astrology. It's certainly something she can do. It's going to be her strong suit. When I first met her, she had just left and came when she was just before taking the classes. She had she let go of her big astrology following, but she was getting by by working in a bar. She'd be the bartender, and everyone would come and talk to her, telling her their stories, their hard luck stories. Whoa, there's the Mars, Neptune, Venus. It was right there, and she did that for a long time. Finally, she didn't want to do it, and it's one of the things she could do. Jack of all trades, Mars and Gemini, but you could see how a lot of people would want to come and talk to her with this and sit around and talk, and she'd listen, be able to be there listening, and how that would work. But she would do the same thing, works for astrology. Everybody's got their fascinating sides. You just have to slow it down until you get a sense of how could this be? What's this puzzle? And then the person tells you one or two things, and suddenly, it clicks in. You start seeing how it's working for them. Okay, so her soul, her spiritual, her progressed Sun, and is moving up to the midheaven. So she has a distinct need across her life to go more high profile. Just an instinct. Mine all starts down low in the second, third, and it goes down. It's low all my life, trying to fit in. But she has this very high. So being a teacher, putting videos, movies, things together with astrology, no problem. Counseling, advising people, easy. When the question of relationships, finding stable relationships, that's the bigger puzzle. Many people, I know a lot of people have astrology and they're into astrology, really into it, but their partners aren't into it at all. They have two different worlds. So you expect these diversities or these multiple choices going on. When we look at the chart, you see just even before we even do the calculation to get the exact dates, you can see the Saturn in the 7th. So it's going to hit the midheaven at about 8 years old, starting school, feeling independent. It's going to be up with the Uranus. It's going to be on the midheaven. She has her status then. By the time she gets about 13 years old, 12 years old, Saturn's hitting her ascendant. So from 10 to 12, she's not fitting in. I don't fit in here. What am I doing here? She's disassociating, whether that's parents being together or not. Something caved in, but her Saturn hit her ascendant. So from about 12 till 27, 28, before the Saturn return, all of the struggle, she was supposed to be in school learning and figuring things out. That's the Saturn below. Then at 28, going up to her Saturn return, it's building up to build up again. It starts building up to the midheaven and catching up with her Sun, which is moving up that way too. So it builds up, and those two things are building up to mid. That's a strong force. Progressions and transits both moving in the same way. So okay, and we know, just looking at the chart for now, her Saturn she just had the second time around, her world caved in again at 12 and 28, 40, no, 12 and 28, 40, 41, around 41, 42, her world caved in again. That was probably, she built up the huge astrology thing and it caved in, or she didn't want to do it. She got tired, it was demanding too much, and then she came in, but she's Saturn below the horizon. So she started studying astrology with me as Saturn was approaching the descendant. Even though she knew astrology, she felt there was, I knew things differently. She wanted to study it and add and fix her foundations. So that was a smart move. Anyway, she's been doing that, and Saturn's now still in the first house at the Saturn opposition. So now there's an identity crisis. Who am I? Where am I going? Her energy now is not going so much out to career. That old way of thinking, which was strong for 15 years, isn't working anymore. It's like, I got to find something new for me. So like, she thinks the old way, but she's not going that way. So there's a dichotomy. And this is her hardest phase, going through this first quadrant, because in that phase, it's going to go to the first quadrant. It's going to get through the year. At some point, it's going to oppose her Sun and her Venus and her Mercury before it conjuncts her Moon in the IC. So she has a large first quadrant, intuitive quadrant. So Saturn's going to be down there a long time. But then she gets pumped again, and things really start changing when Saturn hits the Moon and then the IC. Then she builds up steadily, and next time she builds up is her big cycle, because the Sun will have, progressed Sun will have caught up, and they'll both be peaking about the midheaven around the same time, within a few years of each other. So these are things I can see. When I look at a chart, this is how I see it. I look at these things. If I want to, if I have to, I can look at the Moon, and I can see the 15-year phases of the Moon, which pretty well will follow the quadrants too. But that comes with a lot of experience being able to do that. So you're going to try and do that anyways, but you still got to back up and do the regular basic work on this. You still got to do the specific details to just get it anchored and get all the information in, so you've touched it and you're not forgetting things. Every time you leave something out, you're missing something, and it may be trivial, it may not be relevant at the time, but sometimes it's just one more piece missing. So it's really worth spending a few hours on a chart before you see someone, even though you can see what's going on in a few minutes. The repercussions of how that person can read, what do they need, how are you going to reach them, how are you going to fit their timing into their natal chart, how are you going to say what they need to hear. That'll work hours on before you see somebody. So, okay, so here we just have, this is the natal chart in the center with the transits around the outside. I don't like, this is, you can just immediately read Neptune's in the second house, Venus in the fourth house, the transiting planets, you can see where they're coming from, and you can do the aspects and try and read into the chart. I find this is not the area I put it here, because we tend to run these off, and sometimes you see the chart and you're just thinking, well, where's Neptune now, or where's Saturn now? There's the Saturn in the first house coming up in January. The Saturn's going to conjunct Pluto in her first house. Okay, then they're both going to take their turns opposing the Saturn. They're both finished. They're just about finished with hitting the Moon. So you can go in and you can easily spend some time thinking about, oh, look at this, but you'll get bits and pieces and you're jumping around it, tend to. And sometimes you have to, because this is the only information you have. You got a chart, you got the transits around it, or you got a little booklet that the 200-year ephemeris for the first day of each month. I never go anywhere without that. But this is sometimes you have to work like this, but when I do, I'm still starting I usually just go to the natal chart, like on the right here, and I would just see the Saturn. I'd imagine it going around, see where it is around now. Then I look at the progressed sun, and we see where it's going. I get the general point of what that person needs to know. You still get the basic advice that they need to know. She's got to be studying and learning for the next 10 years. Saturn going through that first quadrant. Then it'll pay off. So she's got more growing to be. She's finished with one field of activity. She's got deeper things to build up. Okay, so that's where she's supposed to go. What she's doing and how she sees things, that's a different thing. She normally wouldn't think it's that practical to be going back to school that much, but she'd see if there was a need that she might need to improve things. So there's puzzles here.